Meeting call to order. So we have a roll call, please. City Clerk.
Councilmember Barbadillo. Vice Mayor Chua.
Here.
Councilmember Leanne.
Here.
Councilmember Fan. Mayor Montano.
And I am here. Okay, so we will adjourn to closed session. And City Attorney, would you like to make an announcement what's going to be on closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight you have two items for your consideration on closed session. Item A is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to GC section 54957.6. The agency designated representative is Nick Raish. The bargaining units are Protec, MEA, MidCon, all represented by UPEC, LIUNA, IAFF, and MPOA. The second item you have tonight is conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. This is pending litigation pursuant to GC 54956.9D1. The city is the defendant in the matter of Lauren Preston versus City of Milpitas, Workers' Compensation Appeals Board numbers ADJ 1135345, ADJ 113531006, ADJ 151440006, and finally ADJ 15056426.
Thank you. Are there any public comments for the closed session items? Are there any on Zoom?
We have no raised hands, Mayor.
Seeing none, we are adjourned to closed session. Thank you. Okay, meeting is now called to order. So, City Attorney, would you please call out what was released in closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. Discussion was had regarding labor negotiations, as well as discussion in the existing litigation matter. At this point, there's nothing to report out.
Thank you very much. And now let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And now we'll go on to invocation, and Councilmember Barbadillo will do the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Dear Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you had provided us and all the protections for each and every family in this city. And their safety, which we know all came from you. I also pray for the people of Morocco and Libya for the disaster that struck their nation. We ask that you give them strength and faith regards to a recovery on their countries. We continue to ask for your divine wisdom as we sit here today to decide what's best for the city. This is all we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Council Member. And now it is time for the public forum. So I would allow 1 minute for anyone who would like to speak from the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak?
Yes,
From the
Mayor.
floor?
I have 3 cards. The first is Johnny Reed, the second is Kayleen Buteau, and the following is Marvin Serber.
Okay, so who was the first one? I can't see the name, so you'll have to say their name.
The first was Johnny Reed.
Johnny Reed. Hello.
Been living in Milpitas for at least 30 years. And I was wondering, how can I deal with the noise issue that we have now that Lucky Store at South Park, Victoria and Big Basin is moved out and this new customer is moving in, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I can't sleep at night, and neither can my granddaughters because of the noise that's coming from the store. When it was Lucky's, we didn't have a problem. But now they've got their refrigeration motor just going all night long, and it's difficult to try and get any sleep. I mean, it's just noisy, you know. I mean, when you have houses along the freeway, like 680, you have sound walls along there, and it keeps them down. I don't know what Lucky's did to keep it quiet, but it was fine, you know. And I used to deliver equipment to different places as a truck driver, and we had like 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock was
Thank you.
starting.
So your time is up. However, I will ask the city manager to look into your concern.
Okay,
And
because
you have the card. The card has your information on it, right?
yes, yeah, it has some information on it. I thought I was allowed 3 minutes, but I guess not.
1 minute. I just made 1 minute. So he will speak to you and get back to you on your issue.
It's pretty sad that they make so much noise that you can't even sleep at night.
Yeah, that's
But I
good.
mean, because 7 a.m. to 10 is fine for noise, but 10 to 7 in the morning, trying to sleep, granddaughter. Sleep.
I hear you. Thank you
Makes it
very
pretty
much for
tough.
coming here.
Okay, so you guys will get back to me on this?
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
The next speaker is Kayleen Buteau.
We have 1 minute.
Milpitas since '06. I'm here about noises as well. I'm here to ask about the safety noises and all of these loud vehicles. I've been emailing the city employees for the past year, been kind of getting the runaround. When I first asked to lend me Maggie, first thing she said to me was she didn't have the manpower for that, and she insulted my hearing. So I know that there's no studies showing that loud backup sounds save lives. There are studies showing that loud noises reduces our IQ. So I wanted to ask if there's some kind of there's no regulations on the Amazon backup vehicles, the DHL vehicles that make this loud, shrill noise. Why can't it be just like the dump trucks with the loud, little tiny little noise in the bottom? All these noises are getting louder and louder. And there are studies, and then anybody on the spectrum is going to be bothered by these noises. So animals and anybody, and even elderly. So I'm here to request that there's something being done for all these vehicles that have these loud noises.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And next,
The next speaker is Marvin Serber, followed by Voltaire Montemayor.
welcome.
My name is Marvin Serber. I've lived in Milpitas. Last winter, I noticed Christmas trees by City Hall. I also noticed for other holidays, such as Lunar New Year, City Hall is lit up for the year of the rabbit. Not only do I like to learn about other people's culture, I think it's important to learn about other people's culture. I would like there to be a menorah during the holiday of Hanukkah this December, representing my culture. This way, other people in Milpitas can learn about my culture. It is important to note that the Supreme Court of America ruled the menorah is a cultural symbol, not a religious symbol. I will be willing to help plan the menorah lighting. It would mean a lot to me to have my culture represented in Milpitas.
Thank you very much. And I believe that staff can help you organize that. We do have several flag raising that the community, they organize it themselves, and I'm sure they'll help you with that. And we have your contact information, right? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh, Mr. Montemayor, come on up.
Greetings to all. Yeah, we're good and lucky in Milpitas. We have the good CDBG, the grant, great news. Caper, the performance and all, good news. Now we had St. John's, the cancer donations at Pabalkis Hall. And we today also there was a PWID for intellectual health disabilities. And then today we have a pre-helpful event at Barbara at our center, Barbara. And then we have your eyes to be checked. You have the dementia, Alzheimer, and we have the eyes check, visionary. And then we don't want surprises, though. We have this. We have to be prepared for surprises, earthquake, floods, and we have to have amphibian boats and all of those that we need.
Mr.
Thank you.
Montemayor. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the floor? Seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom?
I have one hand raised from Tom Valori.
Please proceed, Tom.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, several months ago, I appeared before this august body to surface a concern that I had with regard to seniors and modifications made to their homes for sustainability purposes, and the fact that the fees for permitting contributed significantly toward the cost of making such modifications. In my particular case, I was changing out a bathtub for a zero threshold a shower, and fees added 10% to the cost. I'm sure in many cases, seniors who want to stay in their homes need to make modifications to their homes, particularly if they've been there for a period of time and they aren't in one of the newer homes.
Thank you, Tom. And actually, we do have programs that do help our senior citizens, or actually anyone that would like to modify their home. Who would be the person to reach out? Okay. So you can just call up our acting city manager, Ned, and he can give you the information. Thank you very much, Tom. Is there anyone else on Zoom?
That was it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now moving on to the announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions. We have City Attorney Michael Mutilapasi to speak on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask you, Mayor, and each council member whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Bordello,
None.
Vice Mayor Chua,
None.
Councilmember Lian,
None.
Councilmember Fan,
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am a none.
And I would further ask you, Mayor Montano, and each of the members of the Milpitas City Council to please disclose any campaign contributions, $100 or more, received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from development project applicants for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
None.
Vice Mayor Chua,
None.
Councilmember Lian,
None.
Councilmember Fan,
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am a none.
Please let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts.
Thank you very much. And now I will read the code of conduct. Be respectful and courteous. Words, tone, and body language do matter. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflict of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. And now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to make any changes or make a motion? And we have Vice Mayor Chua.
So moved.
It was moved by Vice Mayor Chua and seconded by Council Member Han Lin. And so now I am going to make a motion for, well, actually, we're going to go for the vote. We're going to vote. Yeah, I'm gonna. You're going to want to move the maybe move to add the announcements for we can do the presentations. So go, Vice Mayor Chua. Hold on.
I would like to make an amendment to the agenda to move announcements after the approval of the agenda. How's that?
Councilmember Lin.
Second.
Okay, so we are going to approve the agenda with an amendment to move announcements to the top. Usually we do it on the bottom after the, that's the last thing that we do, but we're moving it up so that way we can make some presentations to our firefighters. And with that, we'll take a vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Agree.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Okay. And now we are going to announcements for the consent items. Okay, this will be for the announcement for the future agenda items. But I would like to go and make the presentations now.
That's fine.
So that's
Yeah,
what, that's
no
what I wanted
announcements
to do
for
right now.
future agenda
Okay.
items. Thank you.
I don't hear it. Okay, there we go. So we have several commendations. So these commendations are for our firefighters that they won a gold medal, the gold medalist firefighter department softball team who completed the California Firefighter Olympics. So we have Fire Chief Jason Schoonover and Fire Captain Ryan Peters will accept the certificates on behalf of of all the Milpitas Fire Department softball team. And the members are firefighter Andrew Quimby, retired Deputy Fire Chief Brian Stelling, Fire Captain Christopher Baldwin, Fire Engineer Craig Whitbeck, Fire Engineer Derek Chew, Fire Engineer George Perez, Firefighter Jeremy Stagel, Fire Captain Kalani Dillon, Firefighter Kenan Wolf, Firefighter Michael Watson, Firefighter Michael Yamashita, Firefighter Robert Kessler, Firefighter Rui Carapinha, Firefighter Ryan Ostro, Fire Captain Ryan Peters, Fire Prevention Inspector Tanya Talavera. So we will give these out, and as I mentioned, Fire Captain Ryan Peters will accept, and Fire Chief Jason Schuniver will accept these certificates on behalf of the Milpitas Fire Department softball team. Thank you so much for playing baseball. I would like for you to come and say something.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I wish I could take credit for being part of the team that won the gold, but I was there just for moral support. They wouldn't let me play. But I would like to just congratulate them on their hard work. They did a great job. And I'd like to introduce Fire Captain Ryan Peters.
Well, thank you very much, council. Thank you for recognizing this as definitely not necessary, but it's our pleasure to represent the city, and we're very happy that we're able to do it well. It's a good way to promote physical fitness, and it's also a good way to meet other firefighters and share ideas. So we're glad we represented the city well. So thank you.
So now we will move on to the consent calendar. Oh, actually, are there any announcements from my colleagues? Seeing none, so I will now move on to the consent calendar. Does staff have any changes on the consent calendar?
No changes. Thank you.
And now I will ask. Okay, the announcement. We'll have Councilmember Fan would like to make an announcement.
Yeah, I'd like at a future council meeting for staff to bring back capital projects that have not been named yet, or for council to just take a look at. I think it also just be helpful as a overview of CIP projects in the works.
That it? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. And now, so staff.
Mayor, I believe you need to determine whether there's a council consensus for Councilmember Fan's item.
No, so is there a consensus? Let's have a vote. So council members, Fan, yes. Councilmember Barbadillo. Hold on.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
Councilmember Barbadillo, yes.
Yes.
Councilmember,
Yes.
Councilmember Chua, Vice Mayor Chua.
Yes.
Okay, and I am a yes. Okay, now moving on for the. Did we vote on this already? on the consent? Not yet? Okay, let's do the vote. Okay, so Vice Mayor Chua,
So move for consent approval. Second.
there is a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by Councilmember Lin.
And Mayor, I believe you need to take public comment before we can vote on the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a comment from the public on the consent calendar?
I scanned them all and then they're all good. Thank you.
Is there anyone from Zoom?
I have no hands raised on Zoom, Mayor.
Okay, so now we have done the motion and the second. And as I mentioned, Vice Mayor Chua made the motion to accept the consent calendar and it was seconded by Councilmember Han Lin. So now we will call for the vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you for that. And that was unanimous. And now we will move on to item, which was it? That staff will do the presentation on the community development.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. Item number 18 is a presentation, or will be a presentation from our acting transportation and traffic manager, Roberto Alonso. The project is funded by a Caltrans grant, and you're asking for council approval of proposed locations for bicycle improvements. This is CIP project 4299, and it was heard previously by the Council Transportation Subcommittee. We'll turn the time over to Mr. Alonso.
Welcome, Mr. Alonso. If you can turn on
Hi.
your mic.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Can I get the presentation, please?
I'm Mayor and City Council, Matt Kano, Deputy City Manager. Just it looks like the presentation's up, and so I'll turn it back to Roberto in a moment. But just wanted to thank you all for your time this evening. We're really excited to bring this forward. This a lot of people worked hard, including Assemblymember Lee's office, to earmark $1 million for us for bike lane improvements in last calendar year's state budget. And we're excited to talk about our plan, our proposed plan for those improvements in this presentation. So with that, I'll turn that back to Roberto.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm here to present to you item number 18, which is to approve proposed project locations pertaining to project number 4299, bicycle improvement project to be funded by Caltrans 2022 Priority Legislative Budget Project, PLPB earmarks. Next slide, please. To give you a little background on this item, City Council adopted the Trail Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan updating May of 2022. In September of 2022, the City of Milpitas was allocated $1 million via Assembly Bill 179 as part of Caltrans 2022 Priority Legislative Budget Program, earmarks for Milpitas bike lanes facilities enhancement. The project goals are to install new and improve existing bicycle facilities in the city to provide safer bicycle routes and promote alternative methods of transportation to reduce greenhouse emissions. Next slide, please. Some key parameters in selecting the bike routes for this project. To align with the visions and goals set by the city's trail, pedestrian, bicycle master plan, it was by supporting connectivity and access to destinations such as Milpitas High Schools, the Gray Mall, Milpitas Library, and the BART station. Another parameter was to improve safety for bicyclists and increasing access to recreational opportunities. Next slide, please. There are 5 different types of bicycle facilities. There's class 1, which is a paved shared use path, which is shown here as an example on Tramway Drive in Milpitas. There's a class 2 bike lane, which is shown here as an existing bike lane on Milpitas Boulevard. Next slide, please. There's a class 2 buffered bike lane as shown here on Piedmont Road. And then there's a class 3 bike lane, which is a shared bike lane as shown here on South Park Victoria Drive. Next slide, please. The 5th category is the class 4 separated bikeway. Currently, the city does not have any existing facility at this time. Next slide, please. So this map shows the proposed project limits in relation to the existing bike lane facilities within the city. The 4 locations or the 4 project limits that have been set up for this project are North Able Street from Milpitas Boulevard to Maryland Drive, Maryland Drive / North Main Street from North Able Street to Carlos Street, South Main Street from Carlos Street to Gray Mall Parkway, and North Milpitas Boulevard from East Calaveras Boulevard to Maryland Drive. Next slide, please. Thank you. Go back. Thank you. So this is the project limits again, but this map shows the proposed limits in relation to the priority bikeway improvements that were identified in the bike master plan. Again, the project limits are North Able Street from Milpitas Boulevard to Maryland Drive, North Main Street from North Able Street to Carlos Street, South Main Street from Carlos Street to Gray Mall Parkway, and North Milpitas Boulevard from East Calaveras Boulevard to Maryland Drive. Next slide, please. So here I'd like to share with you the project schedule. Today we're coming to you, City Council, for the approval of the project list. Once we receive your approval, we'll be submitting to Caltrans the scope, schedule, and fee for their review and approval. We hope to accomplish that in next month in October. Once we've received the Caltrans approval, we'll come back to City Council with the resolution to approve the project towards the end of the year. Once we have the resolution to approve the project, we'll be executing a fund transfer agreement with Caltrans at the beginning of 2024, at which point we'll be receiving the money that will be required to perform the project. The design phase, we're anticipating to last from spring 2024 through winter of 2024. Construction phase, spring 2025 through summer 2025. And we'll hope to close out the project by the fall of 2025. Next slide, please. As part of the general bike plan, there's been quite a bit of community outreach. We're currently working with the 2016 Measure B Bicycle and Pedestrian Education and encouragement and grant, we have a partnership with Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition of doing safe routes to school programs, and we did a parent survey with Weller Elementary. As well, there's several other projects underway, which is one of which is the 2023 bike and pedestrian map. There's bike safety videos available in 4 different languages: English, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Spanish. And the city has been participating in several bike safety workshops. And that concludes my presentation this evening. And if you have any questions or comments, glad to answer.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Matt and Mr. Alonso. Are there any questions to staff from the council members? I have one question. So if I know you mentioned that the project will be closed out in 2025, is there other plans to ask for more grants before, so whether we can have more? Because I know you can't do the whole city, but are there plans for reaching out for more grants?
Yes, that's the goal for the city, to continue to try to obtain more money in order to implement more of the bike routes that were identified in the master plan. My team in unison with the city manager's office will be working to try to improve as many of the bike lanes in the city as possible.
Thank you very much for that. Any other comments? If not, let's call for a motion. Oh, I see one here.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Alonso for the presentation, and thanks Assembly Member Alex Lee for securing the state fund for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, so now we will, actually, I'm going to ask for public comment on this item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come and speak? Mr. Montemayor.
Thanks to the sources, and I believe there's no impact to the city, which is funded by Caltrans. And I thought I saw, is that Abel Street, Abel Road? It's saying Milpitas Boulevard to Maryland Drive. I got lost a little bit, so maybe we go over the bridge, or a typo error. It should be from Calaveras to Maryland Drive. Am I right? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the floor?
I have no public speaker cards, Mayor.
And is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so I would like to see a motion to pass this. And I see Councilmember Lin.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? So it was a motion by Councilmember Lin and seconded by Councilmember Barbadillo. And so now we will call for the vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Lian.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. So it has passed unanimous. Thank you. So now moving on to community services and sustainable infrastructure. And we will have our city manager read the title.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 19 is a presentation from our Recreation and Community Services Director, Renee Lawrenson, on a historic park marker program that was recommended. And these are recommended recommendations to the council from the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources Commission, as well as the Arts Commission. And it would appropriate $90,000 to CIP project number 3489 to proceed with the park marker project. We'll turn the time over to our Recreation and Community Services Director, Lawrence, and for the presentation.
Thank you, Ned. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. While our staff pull up the PowerPoint presentation, just to reiterate, tonight I am bringing to you the recommendations from the Arts Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission on the historical park marker background. Next slide. So just a little bit of history on the historical park marker project. So the Arts Commission, and I'll shorten this and call it PRCRC, the Arts Commission and PRCRC, both of these commissions, as part of their approved work plans for the last 2 fiscal years, have collaborated on a project to develop historical park markers that would be public art pieces that would give or tell the history of the park's namesake and history. A subcommittee of the 2 commissions held several meetings to develop the recommendations. They met sort of at the middle of the pandemic and up until this last year to develop these recommendations for you all. Currently, Milpitas' city park and plaza naming includes 20 city parks that are named for people or cultural groups. We have 16 city parks named for developments or geographical features or historic use, for example, Dixon Landing Park. We have 3 plazas named for people, and we have 1 community garden named for Cesar Chavez. As a quick reminder, the city's parks, streets, and facilities are named through the naming subcommittee, which is formed by this council. And that subcommittee follows the city's recently updated naming policy for naming of all those major infrastructure park streets and facilities. Next slide. So I won't read every single park name to you, but this is a list of the parks, plazas, and the gardens that are named after people. You'll see those that are highlighted in red are the ones that are up for consideration this evening. Frederick Creighton, Delano Menongs, Murphy Park, Peter Gill, Higuera Adobe, Bob McGuire, Sunny Hills, Albert Augustine Jr. Parks. Next slide. So what is this historic park marker going to be, and what's going to be on it that will help the community understand the park and the information about the area that it is built in? So the full color artist design interpretive panels will be mounted on what is best described as a kiosk that will be in the park. There'll be biographical information, photos or drawings of the park's namesake. That would be a mandatory part of this public art piece. There could be artwork by the community members, possibly selected through an art contest with divisions by age group. If the park is close to a school, working with that community, and that effort would be led by an artist. There would also be historical information about the park's land former uses. Are there heritage trees in the park? What is the heritage tree and what's the significance of it? Any native flora or fauna could also be included on this kiosk. Interpretive text, photos, or any other relevant historical information would be developed in-house with staff and assistance from local historical resources, which would include the city's own historic and cultural resources plan, as well as the Milpitas Historical Society and the Santa Clara County historical references and catalogs. Next slide. What could these kiosks look like? So here are 3 examples from other cities and areas. This is not exactly what we're talking about, but it kind of gives an idea of what is out there. These structures that are made of metal, the color panels are designed in of materials that are weather resistant and graffiti resistant. The proposed concepts from the subcommittee and ultimately the 2 commissions is that the historical park marker would be about 7 feet high and no more than 2 feet wide. This kind of gives you an idea of what it could look like. And on the last piece to the right, you can see there's some other artistic cuttings or imagery with the bird on the top. Next slide, please. So what is the proposed program? So the Historic Park Marker Subcommittee recommendations included to manage the program in a phased approach. So the first phase is what we're bringing to the council tonight to initially approve. So phase one would include funding this project with monies from the Public Art Fund, the kiosks and the artist panels, and all the work with the community would be managed by an artist. That includes the marker design, like I said, and any engineering in this design of the kiosk that would be placed through the first set of initial parks. And again, the installation project would be managed by the artist in tandem with the city staff for the first 6 to 7 parks. Phase two, we would have the design of the kiosk set. It would be something that will be consistent through all the parks so that there's continuity as well as a recognition of what these park markers are for and that what kind of information they will include. So phase two would be identifying the additional installation locations. We would identify a funding source, whether it be from grants, any CIPs, or monies like that, or donations. And then of course the installation project for those phase two locations. Next slide, please. So when the subcommittee discussed recommendations to go to the full commissions and then ultimately to our city council, they did talk about the location considerations and what fed into the recommendations that you're seeing tonight. So the subcommittee felt that higher traffic parks would be good for phase one, any parks that have bike paths so that and walking paths as well, so that there was a high amount of people and eyes on these new kiosks, namesakes that have biographical info that currently exists or is easily obtained. Some of the park names still have a bit of a question mark because all we have is a last name. And for one park example, Murphy, there's 2 brothers it could be, so there's some work to be done there still. More recently renovated parks are good, according to the subcommittee, because we've touched those parks now in the early 2020s and as recently as the Delano Manongs Park. And so putting in a kiosk now is desirable because we won't be going back and touching those parks in the near future. With that train of thought, the subcommittee also felt that parks that are planned for future renovation or safety improvements could have markers included with the renovation plans and be part of that future phase and potentially part of that renovation budget. Next slide, please. So the subcommittee's phase one proposed locations were Bob McGuire Park, Frederick Creighton Park, Peter Gill Park, Hall Park, Jose Higuera Park, and Murphy Park. At the time they made those recommendations, staff reminded the subcommittee and the Arts Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission that I believe around 2019, when the Albert Augustine Jr. Memorial Park name was amended to put back Sunny Hills, that the council did direct staff that when this project came forward, that Sunny Hills Albert Augustine Jr. Memorial Park needed to be a part of this list. Next slide. So the Arts and the PRCRC commissions unanimously, approved to recommend the phase one list for city council approval tonight to be Bob McGuire Park, Frederick Creighton Park, Gill Park, Sunny Hills Albert Augustine Park, which was replacing the Hall Park subcommittee recommendation, Jose Higuera Park, and Murphy Park. After the Arts Commission and Parks and Rec Commission made these recommendations, our most recent and new park, Delano Manongs Park, is set to be opened with the grand opening, which is coming in a few weeks. So staff also wanted the city council to consider this evening to add the Delano Manongs Park to this list. We have a lot of information, biographical information on Delano Manongs, as well as available monies in that park project CIP to help fund adding a kiosk to this park site. Next slide, please. So just wanted to talk for a quick second about historical park markers, proposed locations, and the phase 1 locations that showcase Milpitas' diverse history. This is very important I know to our council as well to our residents. So we have Sunny Hills, Albert Augustine Jr. You'll see the picture of Mr. Augustine in the middle, Jose Higuera Park. There's a nice placard that's actually at the site next to the right of the front door. And then the Delano Manos Park, which is opening on October 14th. Next slide. So to go over the budget considerations, as proposed, the project is eligible for public art fund monies through phase 1. And an artist will design, fabricate, and lead the installation of the phase 1 park kiosks. We anticipate those costs to be approximately $30,000. And the cost to install each marker at about $10,000 for the fabrication and installation. So the first phase 1 park costs for budget will be $90,000. And if council is amenable and wants to add Delano Manongs Park to this list, that park would be funded through the park CIP project budget with no impact to the public art fund. Next slide, please. So we've talked about phase 1, just want to touch a little bit on phase 2 or future phases. There would be 9 parks remaining to receive markers that are named after people or cultural groups. Just want to point out that Alviso Adobe would be a 10th park. However, that park has multiple interpretive signage information and an art piece that's sort of similar to the kiosk design at that park already. So we wouldn't go back and retouch that park as we just reopened it in the last 10 years. Additional public spaces could be considered as project location. It could be city trails or trails where the city has easements, pedestrian thoroughfares, or revitalization areas where we want to share the history of the area. Any additional plazas or any future gardens could also receive a park marker or a historical marker in the future. We'd also just want to remember and emphasize that future phases would continue to focus on specific parks or neighborhoods to ensure the inclusiveness and diversity as we go through neighborhoods to beautify and enhance them. Next slide. So next steps after council discussion and once we receive recommendation, if it's positive and moving forward with this project, we would reconvene the project subcommittee of the arts and the PRCRC commissioners. A release or artist call for proposals would be developed and sent out to the artists community. And we would go through the process of reviewing proposals and having those final designs come back to the city council and have you approve the final design for the historical park markers. Next slide. So the recommendations this evening are to approve the historical park marker project concept at Bob McGuire Park, Frederick Creighton Park, Peter Gill Park, Jose Higuera, Murphy, Sunny Hills, and Delano Manongs Park, and appropriate $90,000 to Public Art CIP number 3489. That concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Renee. Very good presentation. So now I would call for the public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? And we see Mr. Montemayor, come on up.
Very nice presentation. Well presented, Renee. Yes, if we could have more than 90 grand, then it's better. But I think it's fairly budgeted. The consideration is fairly spread out. So yeah, we go to the parks. In other words, Milpitas is known for parks. So I would say, what else? We will say yes for the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, is there anyone on Zoom?
I have no hands raised on Zoom, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So now we will go on to the council discussion. Is there anyone of my colleagues that would like to make any comments? And I see Vice Mayor Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. Renee, can we look at the recommendation again, please? Oh, thank you for the presentation. It's very detailed and on point. So thank you for that. The only comment I have is if somehow, I don't know if we need to change the policy or the handbook for arts and PRCRC, Parks and Recs Commission. Is there a way we can have the input from the council, from the subcommittee, once the final, because this is conceptual right now, correct?
That's correct.
So if we have the actual recommendation, I would like to suggest to bring it up to the subcommittee. It's currently named Facilities Naming Subcommittee. If we can bring that up to that subcommittee, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So if I can get this straight, once, I guess I need to see the steps. So I do agree with you on that. So we'll go to there's a subcommittee from the commission that selects or makes recommendations, and then it goes to the commission, and then it goes to the council. But you're saying that after the subcommittee makes a recommendation, that it would go to the facilities naming subcommittee to review their input. Okay, and I agree with that because for the authenticity, and then you have primary sources for actually, like for myself, I've been in Milpitas since 1964, so I know a lot of the history, and I am a primary source, especially like with the Delano Manongs, since we used to pick grapes when we were kids in Delano. So I like that we need to make sure that we are have the primary sources there. So going with that, is there a motion for? Well, is there a consensus for that? I guess that's what I need to. Or is there a vote for the? You want to make a motion? Okay. Oh, I thought I did public comment already. Yeah. Okay. No, it's because of the previous one I did the council discussion before public comment. Okay, so go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Renee, can you please put up the recommendation, your recommendation?
Sure. I'll ask our city clerk's office to bring up slide 14, please.
Okay, I'll read it from
I
my notes. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Lynn. There you go. So moved. The recommendation is so moved with a friendly amendment of having the council subcommittee look at the final product of these markers.
Okay, I don't see your name, Councilmember Fan, but it was a motion made by Vice Mayor Chua and seconded by Councilmember Fan. So now we will go for the vote.
Councilmember Barbadillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. And this has passed unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. And now moving on to leadership and support services. And I will have our city manager read the title.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. We have our city attorney here tonight to provide, or he is seeking council feedback on potential amendments to the municipal code related to noise at Gill Park.
Thank you. And if we may have the slide deck. So we're looking at getting council feedback with regard to Title 5, Chapter 9, Section 4.05 of the municipal code, specifically regarding the use of noise amplifying devices in parks. Next slide, please. So the park in question, the park that sort of brought all this together is Gill Park. It's a nice park in the center of the city. It's a little over 8 acres, has 3 tennis ball courts, 2 handball courts, one of which is used for pickleball, basketball court, softball fields, barbecues, tables, playgrounds, equipment, restrooms, and parking for 20 vehicles. Next slide, please. Within Gill Park, you have 2 areas that can be rented by residents or members of the public. Picnic area A is the larger of the 2 areas. Picnic area B, also pictured here, is the smaller of the 2 areas. I believe there are 4 barbecues in picnic area A, number of tables in the shaded area, and 2 barbecues in picnic area B. Next slide, please. So the particular issue that I bring before you came up because of an ambiguity in the municipal code, specifically related to the use of noise amplifying sound. Currently, we have Section 4.01 and Section 4.05. Section 4.01 prohibits a number of activities in parks absent a permit issued by the city manager or his authorized agent. Section 4.05 represents one of the activities that is banned. Specifically, what is banned is the use of any loudspeakers or noise amplifying devices without the permit. In 2006, they added the language that on this slide is in red, that the issuance of a written permit from the city manager or his authorized agent for the use of any loudspeaker or other noise amplifying device referred to in Section 4.00 shall not apply to Gill Park. The issue here is that the clear language of this, or the language of the statute, is unclear. It's unclear as to whether the city manager is prohibited from issuing a permit for noise amplified devices in Gill Park, or whether there's no need for a permit for noise amplified devices in Gill Park. Fairly recently, there was a noise complaint. One of our officers went to respond to the complaint, read the statute, determined that it was ambiguous, and referred this, not statute, ordinance, referred the ordinance to the Office of the City Attorney for clarification, which is why I bring it to you. Next slide, please. This is just a statement that appears in the AR regarding ambiguity and why ambiguity. It doesn't work when it comes to ordinances that can be enforced by citation or other criminal punishments. Next slide, please. So the recommendation is for this council to give feedback, either direct my office to prepare an amendment to the ordinance that prohibits the use of amplified sound in Gill Park, or direct my office to prepare an amendment that allows residents to obtain amplified sound permit in Gill Park, just as is allowed in all other parks in the city. Next slide, please. And that's my presentation. Actually, if we can go back to the previous slide, the recommendations will be up there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, City Attorney Mutulapasi. And I will call for the public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments on this item? Please come on up. You can state your name.
My name is Jennifer Ting. Sorry. I'm happy to be here to talk about this issue. Thank you, Mayor Montano, Vice Mayor, City Council members for listening to me here. I'm asking that that you as a City Council to approve the recommendation that there be no amplified noise permitted at Gill Park, including people using megaphones to do speeches, orations, and also live music. This was what I think I emailed all of you the petition that that I submitted to the city council back in 2006. I had all the signatures. I didn't have it on my computer, but I had all the signatures on here. And the city council had approved this.
Thank you very much. We had 1 minute.
And
So, yeah, that's the end of your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to make want to continue where you left?
My name is Albert. I'm a resident near the Newport. And then the city council actually passed that recommendation the citizen recommended at the time 17 years ago. And amplify the music and no loud noise in the park. And it passed. But for some reason, the reading is very confusing. And then now the policemen feel that it's very difficult for them to enforce. And then the city council at the time they passed that in Gill Park is no amplified music, no loud music. And then that's what they passed at the time. And then I do not know why today it become a problem again. And then the city Anthony explained that this is because the reading is very confusing. And then the police city cannot enforce the city ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And is there anyone from Zoom that would like to speak on this item?
I believe Mr. Montemayor wanted to address the council.
Oh, Mr. Montemayor.
I'm for all the users and for the residents around. The park is really very close to the residents, past the creek and past the road, the Santa Rita Drive. So anyway, my family house is far up north past Tramway, so they're not much affected. But anything that we could dampen the noise, it will be helpful. I just don't know how we could, but yeah, I'm for everyone concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the floor that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, is there anyone from Zoom?
I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you very much. And so now I will ask the city council for any discussion on this item. Is there anyone from the council? Seeing none, is there a motion or a motion and a second? Oh, city manager?
Yeah, I think for this item, the city attorney was looking for feedback, so there doesn't necessarily need to be a motion, the item. Unless you want to move to have him return with the ordinance.
That's correct. What we're looking for today is for the council to weigh in on what the noise or the amplified sound prohibition should be at the parks and at Gill Park specifically.
Okay. Any comments from the council? Councilmember Barbadillo.
Since there is ambiguity with regards to some regulation using the park as to tones and sounds, I believe this is very much appropriate to guide the proper usage of those parks and to make sure not only those that occupy them will respect privacy and noises, but also the surrounding community. And both community and the users of the park will be able to enjoy it more respectful and more defined. So that's my feedback.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other comments so that way our city attorney can take those when he creates the new ordinance. City Attorney, do you have any comments?
No, if the council doesn't have any further comments, I'll bring this back to the council for consideration of an ordinance.
Okay, thank you for that. And just to let the public know that some of us we will be going to Sacramento for the California League of Cities. And we will be there the 20th through the 23rd, and this to learn about city government workshops on the new laws and how we can better lead the city. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.